our meetings because that's when we advertised that our meeting would start. So I call this meeting to order, and I need a motion to return to open session. To reconvene.
Oh, yep, I'm sorry. I move that we reconvene in open session and adopt certification of closed session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Ms. Burnett?
Certification of closed session. Whereas the Dinwiddie County School Board has convened a closed session on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas paragraph 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dinwiddie County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only such business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the school board. Dr. Elaine Pearson, District 1.
I certify.
Dwayne Walker, District 2.
I certify.
Barbara Pittman, District 3.
I certify.
Mary Benjamin, District 4.
I certify.
Jason Brown II, District 5.
I certify.
Madam Chair, all certify.
Thank you very much. And at this time, we will have some students from the Midway Pre-K to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you stand, please? Thank you so much. You may be seated. Ms. Golson, are there any amendments to the agenda? No amendments. Okay.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the agenda as it's presented here.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The motion carries. Closed session report, personnel.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the personnel list as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Student matters.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration and long-term suspend student number LT-04/24-1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. The consent agenda, expenditure reports.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the expenditure reports as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the minutes of March 12, 2024, and March 26, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That motion carries. And now, Dr. Weston, recognitions. Hi, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson.
How are you?
Well, thank you. It's on.
Okay, all right, great.
We want to thank you for this opportunity for our students to show what they're learning. This year, learning is a mystery, and you have to solve it. So we have the Midway Elementary School Detective Agency with us tonight. Okay, oh, that's even better. So we have the Midway Elementary School Detective Agency with us tonight, and we try to keep everything student-centered. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Detective, Thomas Green, and he is going to help us figure out and solve what we're learning this year.
Midway Elementary School is filled with detectives solving learning mysteries. Each and every day we show up to tackle these mysteries. These are just some ways we use clues in each grade level to engage in learning. Let's start with kindergarten. Kindergarten use clues to identify American symbols.
Daddy, I'm trying to find the American flag. Do you see it? Let's look at our clues. The American flag has white stars and a blue rectangle and red and white stripes. Oh, there is, Maddie. We say the pledge of allegiance to the flag each morning.
First grade uses clues to identify money.
Madeline, I need to know how much money I have, but I don't know what this coin is. Let's take a look at our clues. Monticello is on the front, Monticello is on the back. There's a smooth edge, and it's thicker than the rest. Oh, with those clues, it has to be a nickel, and I know a nickel's only 5 cents.
Our second graders use clues to identify living and non-living parts of habitats.
What kind of habitat do you think that is? Let's look for clues. There's trees, rocks, animals, and water. Those clues examples of this habitat that has to be the woodland forest.
Our third graders use clues to identify shapes.
I have a shape here, but I'm not sure what it's called. I know it's not a square nor a rectangle, but it has no movement. Let's look at our clues. We know it's a polygon because of the close print figure, because of at least 3 left sides expressing not cause. It has an odd number of sides and angles. It's a 7-sided polygon. There, I've got it. It has to be a heptagon.
Our fourth graders use clues to identify the 3 languages spoken in Virginia by native Indians.
Actually, I'm learning about the American Indians that lived in Virginia. It says there are 3 languages spoken by them. Let's take a look at the clues. All the languages were part of the Eastern Woodland Indian tribes. The Powhatan Indians spoke this language. This language was spoken in 2 areas of Virginia, Southwest Virginia and Southern Virginia near North Carolina. I have the answer. The 3 languages spoken were Algonquian, Siouan, and Iroquois.
Our fifth graders use their reading clues to help them with their science concepts.
I am looking for an organizational pattern that will help me understand all of the information that I'm reading about plants and nutrition. Let's look at what we have. We have at least 2 topics for our study. We need to learn how these types of energies are different. We can put them in a Venn diagram for a picture. I think I have shapes, and I need to compare and contrast non-fiction information.
Well, that's all, folks. We solved all of our reading clues,
On a mystery.
learning mysteries, in the Midway Elementary School.
That was so great.
Thank you, Tyler.
It was so good.
And that's what we're learning at Midway, and we're solving our clues, and we thank you for this opportunity, and I thank our detective agency for coming and helping us out and showing all the good stuff that we're learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, now I have a few more other recognitions. FBLA Middle School competitive events recognize and reward excellence in a broad range of business and career-related areas. They prepare students for a successful career in business by providing opportunities to apply classroom concepts in a workforce-simulated competitive environment. At the middle school level, there are 23 competitive events, which range from business ethics to interpersonal communication. Students are able to compete by completing an objective test or presenting or either via role play. Would Reagan Newton and Lauren Williams please come forward? On Saturday, March 9th, Reagan Newton and Lauren Williams, both Dinwiddie Middle School 8th graders, placed in the area of multimedia and website design. They were judged on how well they understood the topic, website appeal to audience, well organization and clarity of statements, their self-confidence, poise, assertiveness, good voice projection, and the ability to effectively answer all the judges' questions. Both young ladies have advanced at the FBLA National Conference in Orlando, Florida, which will take place June 29th through July 2nd. Sponsors Kimberly Roselle and Juliana Lashley Grant, please stand. Both sponsors shared that both young ladies have been dedicated and instrumental in the Dinwiddie Middle School chapter of FBLA since 6th grade. Okay, congratulations, ladies. Thank you. Lastly, Dinwiddie County Public Schools is a part of Southside Virginia Regional Technology Consortium. The mission of SVRTC is to assist members with coordinating the acquisition and effective integration of valuable, up-to-date, emerging technologies, valuable training for K-12 students, staff, and other citizens in our community, which will enhance learning at all levels and economic development in Southside Virginia. Each year, SVRTC hosts an annual technology awards banquet. The following people were selected locally and then recognized on March 14 at the SVRTC Technology Award Banquet, which was held in Longwood University. When I call your name, please come forward with your plaque so that we can celebrate you. First up, Instructional Technology Support Award was awarded to Melissa Norris. Mrs. Norris, the library media specialist at Southside Elementary School, demonstrates a commitment in incorporating technology in her library instruction. She employs innovative approaches such as utilizing a green screen app for students to encourage creativity and storytelling. Additionally, Mrs. Norris integrates the ChatterPix app, allowing students to bring story characters to life. Furthermore, she uses technology to reinforce phonics skills, providing students with interactive and visual instructional support. Mrs. Norris' willingness to assist teachers with demonstrations and lessons, and her resourcefulness in acquiring necessary tools, materials to highlight her dedication to facilitating effective teaching and learning at her school, Southside Elementary. Next up, Technology Teacher Award was given to Mary Rash. Ms. Rash, a physical science teacher at Dinwiddie Middle School, consistently shows evidence of technology integration in her weekly lesson plans. She is a teacher who is unafraid to try something new to help advance her students. To increase student engagement, Ms. Rash seeks out various programs such as virtual labs, Blookit, and GimKit, and many more. She integrates the technology seamlessly, and the students are comfortable and they're confident trying new things in her classroom. She enjoys using a variety of platforms to help reach all students. Ms. Rash is a dedicated, hardworking, and forward-thinking teacher. All right. Last but not least, the Technology Support Award. It was awarded to Elizabeth Beth Rainey.
Elizabeth Rainey is the Student Information Specialist for Dinwiddie County Public Schools. She delivers a 5-star customer service experience to various stakeholders, including parents, teachers, staff, and administrators. Mrs. Rainey provides training and support to our schools, our divisions in the areas of pre-K through 12 online registration, student information system support, data audit reporting, monthly school outreach visits, and monthly tips for both teachers and administrators. She approaches each task and other projects with a positive outlook, attention to detail, and a commitment to excellence. Congratulations, everyone. Dr. Weston, that is all of our recognition.
Thank you so much. It's, as historically, we allow board members to make comments at this point because we allow the students and or their parents to exit the meeting if they choose. So we'll start down here on your end, Jason. Any comments for the recognitions?
Yeah, I'm normally the last one, so this is.
I know, I started to mix it up for you.
That's all right. I'll be prepared next time.
Okay.
So I loved all of the presentations from the elementary school. Definitely, as we're getting ready for summer, continue to learn during the summer. Learn some things that you might not have learned before. I'm a huge language nerd, so 4th graders, when you talked about the 3 indigenous languages that were spoken here in Virginia, I knew at least one of those answers, so that was really exciting to learn the other 2. So keep that up. I know actually the Cherokee Nation, every summer they do like an 8-week course where you can learn the Cherokee language. So maybe if you've got a computer at home or access to the library, here in Dinwiddie or even in Petersburg, try to maybe have your parents, sign you up for those courses so you can take that, speak Cherokee on the playground and whatnot. And then congratulations also to our FBLA members with your 2 awards, and then also to all of our technology and interpersonal specialists, I guess would be the word for that. So yeah, really, really great presentations. I thoroughly enjoyed them.
Good evening, everybody. I certainly enjoyed the presentation. I mean, the kindergartners, oh, you were just great. They just stole the show, but all of you were great. I love your hats. I love the color, and you just bringing us into spring. I just love it. And thank all of your teachers, parents, everybody who came out to see your students do what they do in school and to show us what they're learning. I tell you, when I was in school, we used to do these kind of things in the church. If any of you go back that far, you may not go back that far, but when you come out and you show your parents in front of your teachers, this is really special. So thank you, Mr. Johnson, along with your staff and everybody who helped to make this possible.
Ms. Owens gets the
Okay, Ms. Owens, thank you.
I saw a few familiar faces here from Midway, and then a few that I don't know, but I just wanted to say Midway has a special place in my heart, so it's really cool to see students still learning and growing in Midway. I went to that school a long time ago, as did my own mother, and my grandfather graduated from Midway School when it was a 1 through 12 school, so I love Midway. And love what's happening there. So really, really grateful for what you guys are doing there. It's awesome to see. And then also want to acknowledge the folks that were recognized, the staff members that were recognized. It's really cool to see that we have people in our county that are so committed to what they're doing and excelling, not just doing enough to get by. So we're grateful for you guys. Thank you.
Congratulations to all the award winners for the faculty and staff members in technology. I can remember my first experience with technology back in the 80s when I was informed that I was going to be teaching computer lit and I'd never turned a computer on. It was a true learning experience, so thank you for all you do. To the middle school FBLA award winners, congratulations to you, and I hope you have a grand time in Orlando. Now, to our detectives, never stop investigating and following the clues. You'll be amazed at the amount that you can learn, and I appreciate so much you sharing it with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And will we have parents and teachers here of the Midway students? Would you please stand, please, so we can recognize you? Thank you so much for all of your support for your students, and we loved having them here to keep us informed of what's going on at Midway. Thank you. And to the award recipients for the SVTC, thank you for continuing to learn and to be willing to learn something new and keep changing. Education is changing all the time, and we have to be flexible and learn what's new out there. And obviously, you've demonstrated that you have done that. And FBLA members, I'm hoping that you're going to learn a lot when you go to Orlando, but also having a great time. So at this time, we'll take just a few minutes pause and.
Monty wants to.
Oh, excuse me, Imani, I forgot you.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to start by saying that I loved seeing the detectives today. Today I actually was at Southside with their second graders, and they're constantly learning and they're growing and they're just learning every day. So it's nice to see what y'all are doing in each grade level and see that y'all are finding those clues. And like we had said before, that y'all continue to find those clues as you progress from grade to grade and in life as well. I also want to say congratulations to the DMS FBLA. Make sure that when you do go to Orlando and you go and compete and you go against all these other people, really cherish that experience, because when you are going out to these other places and you are seeing these other chapters, you really just want to treasure that experience, because you definitely learn a lot from one another. And then also, congratulations to the SBRTC people. It's really nice to see teachers and staff get recognition as well, because without them, we wouldn't be able to learn like we do. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Imani. At this point, we'll just take a 2 or 3 minute pause for those people who feel like they need to leave. We always welcome if you would love to stay, but we give you a chance just in case you have homework or you need to get on home. Not reading a piece of paper. Yeah. Good kid. The orange hat? Orange hat? Green hat, okay. That's good.
He's a fun kid.
Yeah. Anybody over here that would like to fill in over here, we'd love to have you. I know they do. Well, they were given that to them.
Like the choir.
Yes. There's plenty of seats in the middle if anybody wants to have a better view.
That's true.
We will move forward with board matters. Tri-Cities FBLA Leadership Conference. Is that Mr. Archie Tortoise? He's in the hall.
I think a parent grabbed him, said that she needed to talk to him as he was.
I understand that completely.
I know. The first one.
Are you the FBLA Leadership Conference?
No, I'm not the.
Well, go ahead with whatever you do have, and we'll wrap back around to that.
Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So the FBLA Leadership Conference that you just heard our students do so well in FBLA, this would be our, that spring leadership, so this would be the high school group that is requesting to go to Northern Virginia. They did have one competitor that qualified for the state competition. So they are requesting since it is overnight. Miss Anderson, our co-sponsor of FBLA at the high school that you met last month, will be escorting our student to the state competition.
Does anyone have any questions about the state competition? Do they spend the night, do you know?
Yes, ma'am.
Spend the night, okay.
And just the one student and then the one faculty member, that's the.
Correct. And then the other students that qualified have an online portion that they can do, that they were not a first place winner, so it is just one student that is attending this particular in-person portion of the conference.
In competing, so to
Yes.
speak, okay. If there are no questions, we need a motion and a second to approve the trip.
Madam Chairperson, I move that we approve the FBLA Spring State Leadership Conference.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you for explaining. Mr.
Sorry about
Torres?
that one. I think we got our signals crossed. I didn't send that one down to Bonnie, so that one went to her without my knowledge at that point. All right, the one I'm here for is the American Sign Language trip. Miss Ward, our ALS teacher at the high school, wanted to take this trip last year, and it was just too condensed. But they would like to go to Gaudet University in Washington, D.C. It's the center of attention, she says, in the deaf world. It is an all-deaf college, so the things that they're learning, they will see firsthand. And it's actually, if you watched any commercials, it's the one where they do the little football play inside the helmet thing. They're the ones that, I guess, started that. They're going to go to Starbucks to use their skills. They have an all-deaf Starbucks. So it's just a day for them to go up. They're going to use our buses. And I believe we have 30 children, 4 sponsors, and leaving at 9 in the morning and coming back that evening around 10.
You have any questions for Mr. Torres about the sign language trip? If we'd really been doing our homework, we would have learned how to say.
Yes,
Say yes. Well, that means I'd have to learn what you were saying too.
We need a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the American Sign Language Level 2 field trip.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then passes.
That
Thank you.
works.
Custodial services.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This year, Dinwiddie Schools decided that we wanted to not really revamp, but re-solicit for custodial services to fit more what we're doing. We've added a number of facilities. We've changed the way we do things since COVID, and some of the things have stayed. I know I'm not supposed to mention COVID, sorry. But we found some things that really worked during that time period, especially with the way we served meals, how we can get students into classrooms earlier and they can eat in the classroom. Well, of course, the only fair thing there is to make sure that you have custodial needs for that. So we weren't meeting that because it wasn't in our current contract, so we were having to piece it together. So all in all, we decided that it was important that we put this back out for a request for proposals. We did put it back out in January. We got 14 responses, and they were all over the board, but they were wonderful. A lot of work was put into this. We did pick 7 to interview. We put together a committee and interviewed 7. And of those 7, we did select one that was truly head and shoulders above the rest of them. They were excellent. And it is HES. I have been unable to determine what HES stands for. I think they just go by HES. I don't think it stands for anything. But HES is a company that has a lot of experience in custodial in K-12 schools, which was important to us. So we did select them, and we do bring them to you for approval. We do have one little caveat to our contract with HES. Our fiscal year obviously starts July 1, and they did make the request that possibly we could ask the outgoing custodial service to end their contract May 31st, so HES could then start June 1. And the reason that's important is so that they can get the work done this summer, because there's a lot of work to be done this summer. We start early August, and they may not be able to finish it in July. Service Solutions was gracious enough to agree, and they are going to exit on May 31st. They're going to end it, and HES will begin their contracted services on June 1st. Obviously, we had to pay for the month of June, and that's in there, that we are going to pay that monthly fee to them. And then we'll begin our normal contract July 1st. I'm really excited about this. Their presentation was wonderful. They're very hands-on. They're very, they were very accommodating. They knew exactly what we needed to hear as far as to give us the confidence that they're going to do a great job, and I think that they are. So I am here to get your approval for us to enter this contract with HES.
Now, we're encompassing the last school that was not,
Yes, ma'am. Midway Elementary.
and how about our existing personnel from them?
Our existing personnel from them, we do have a plan.
Absorbing them?
Well, we're not going to absorb them into HES because a lot of them have invested a lot of time and effort into the VRS, and we want to make sure they can protect that.
Right.
So we're going to place them in different roles at schools. Our first proposal is a maintenance tech 1, which would basically be, they would be
The day worker?
the day worker. They would be the point of contact for HES to come between the principal, take a little bit of pressure off our principals also, if we have a point of contact at each school to deal with those things. As a former principal, I know it's a lot of effort, things are going crazy, and then you have to stop and have that meeting about custodial. It's important, but, if you have a parent in there, it's not always convenient. So we're trying to alleviate that, and we're going to use we actually have 4 positions at Midway Elementary, 3 filled and 1 vacant, and we're going to use those 4 positions to disperse to the elementary schools.
Okay.
Because we already have maintenance tech 4s at the high school and middle school.
We have a question for HES with their services they'll be giving us. Is that indefinite or are they contracted like annually?
It's an annual contract that has a 5-year agreement extension, so as long as no one terminates it, us or they don't terminate it, then it does roll over each year for 5 years, yeah.
And that would end with each school year or?
It ends June 30th each year, yeah. That just coincides with our fiscal year.
Do we renegotiate the money each year?
No, it's in the contract terms. They
It
do.
stays 5 years?
It does, but it goes up based on the composite index.
Okay.
Yeah, which, that's how our contract with SSC was for 13 years also.
I think HES stands for Have Excellent Service.
I like it. I'll just start saying that. That's my first question when I meet the foot boots on the ground guy. What does HES stand
It's
for?
probably nothing in that ballpark.
Yeah, sounds good.
We need a motion and a second in order to approve this contract, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the custodial services contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Carl Perkins Plan. Ms. Wolford.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this year, our local comprehensive needs assessment was conducted. That is done biannually, and I was able to share a lot with the CT advisory board about how that is all done. It does take in quite a bit of data. So this presentation is just going to give you a snapshot of some of the data that was utilized in developing that comprehensive needs assessment summary, which will be submitted to the state at the end of the month. And our preliminary Perkins plan, of course, we have not been given our allocation for the coming year. So they have us use the comprehensive needs assessment to drive the funding priorities using the funding that we received this year, and then that'll be amended. So do I use the clicker? All right. Maybe. It says it's on.
You have to stand on one foot and hold your mouth.
I know. Good. All right. So these were some of the things that we provided the CT advisory with, and we are given an annual performance report each year to help us to look how our overall students are doing in just the high school setting. So post-program placement, you can see we had a huge increase. We're bouncing back from that slump we had there. These are our CTE completers, and some of that dip was due to the fact of not being able to follow up exactly where they were. But non-traditional program concentration, making sure that we're recruiting non-traditional gender students in our different program areas, which is really important, and then supporting those students to pursue those careers. Again, you can see a big increase in our work-based learning programming, not only for all students, but especially for our special populations. And BDOE has a lot of definitions for special populations. That can be students with disabilities, it can be economically disadvantaged. There's a whole a list, but those are our two biggest ones that we are looking at there. Whenever we get our report, this is the first page that I flip to, because this is really where I'm looking for any deficiencies. You know, where did we maybe not meet the necessary requirements as defined by the Perkins 5 regulations. So in this particular report, we were able to meet all of the different standards that are required for all students as well as for special populations. From the comprehensive needs assessment, these were the funding priorities. The first three are always kind of in this template for the state Perkins plan. So you have to have a plan for your professional development. You have to have a plan for targeted activities and strategies for non-traditional and special population students in CTE. And then we always have to have a plan for supporting our regional center. So beyond that, it's driven by the data that we have locally. And so from those identified, this making sure that our students continue to have input and say in their academic and career plan, and awareness of how that process should work, and building and strengthening that for our students as well as our parents. Intentional career exposure activities for our students, especially at the middle school. We think that's really, really important. Every year we look to upgrade equipment and software, and wherever those needs may be. More student opportunities for approved credentials and certifications. We do get state allocations, and so I specify in those that once all of the state funding has been utilized, we'll then rely on the federal funding. Supporting our non-traditional special populations and CTSOs. So you've heard a lot about FBLA tonight, and actually the student that's going to the state competition, part of her trip is being supported by the Perkins grant. And so the students can apply, I call it a CTSO scholarship, but they have to request support for whatever they're doing, and they normally write up an essay and indicate whether they would fall under special populations or non-traditional. And then we allocate those funds to them to support them in those competitions or leadership events. And then finally, we will proceed with working toward getting our culinary arts program federally accredited. And there's been a lot of back and forth with the state on how the process is all rolling out, but we are going to continue to move forward with that to support our culinary program and the students. This is, again, we always talk about how this investment has led to student outcomes. And so I think this is really important to see the overall increases in the number of certifications, being that we prioritize those. So you can see, even though sometimes our cohorts are even smaller, our numbers continue to grow. And that has had a direct impact on that CCCRI indicator. And that was our first year that this was looked at as an accreditation standard for the high school. And so we were level 1 for CCCRI. So as you saw, we have our second year of having a national competitor for FBLA. Our FFA, FBLA, and DECA have all had successful competitions at the regional and state levels, some still to come. 100% of our CTE completers earned an advanced or standard diploma within 4 years. And the CTE follow-up surveys that we're required to do for students 1 year out of high school all ranked a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5 for their overall CTE experience while enrolled in the high school. So I thought this was really important. I used this in one of the other presentations. It is always about growth. You know, we might be at 100%, but we want to maintain 100%. We want to continue to provide opportunities for students. So our work is not done, and I hope that that gives you an overview of why our CTE program is so important. I think most of the things in your Perkins plan and outline that you have available to you will kind of give you more information if you need it, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Do you?
Just a small question. when you were talking about the CTSO, you had mentioned that students are told, that there might be funding available for them with different activities. How do they get that information? Is it through like the guidance counselor?
Typically through their CTE teacher, because they're more aware of what competitions or leadership events that they have interest in. And we've been doing this for several years, and I think it's really broadened opportunities for students to compete much broader and out overnight or, longer distances and things like that. So they don't have the financial burden, with hotel and registration.
Other questions for Ms. Wolford about the plan? If not, we would entertain a motion and a second in order to approve the plan.
So moved.
I need a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the Carl Perkins Plan for 23-24, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you so much for all your work. I'm going to turn the chair over to Ms. Benjamin, because I just need to be in two places at one time, and I will return in time for the public hearing on the budget. You got it? Mhm. Thank you.
Local Gifted Education Program. Dr. Clay.
Because I know how much you like paper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back.
So Ms. Powell does send her apologies that she could not be with us this evening, so I will be presenting the minimal changes to this plan for her. So recently, I believe March 6th, the Gifted Advisory Committee came together. They annually review the plan to see if anything needs to be added or revised. And when they did come together, they saw a few things that needed to be changed. So you have the full plan there, just for your information when you have spare time to read that. But I will point to the pages that do have changes that will require your approval. So the first change is on page 8. And basically, each year there is an adjudication process. The Visual and Performing Arts program is new to us, so there is an adjudication process for that, which means that a group comes together to review portfolios, plan for auditions, review auditions for students who are trying to get into the Visual and Performing Arts program. So originally, they were doing this twice a year, but because of the staffing it requires, and it normally happens on a Saturday, it is difficult to get staff. Also, at this moment with the new program, we don't have a large number of students who are qualifying or who are trying to get into the program. So they would like to change that adjudication to once a year instead of twice a year. The same change is noted on page 12. Now, the adjudication process would be once a year instead of twice a year for the same reason I just stated. The last change is on page 19. So when you look on page 19, it speaks about the service options provided, instructional time with age level peers, and you have different plans for elementary, middle, and high. So in the elementary area, the committee would like to remove that last sentence, that class lessons will be provided by staff from the Math and Science Innovation Center. Unfortunately, since the word that we don't like to say, COVID, this center has not been operational, which is it's a shame because I remember going to that center when I was in high school, which is a long time ago. But right now, they are inactive. So we do need to remove that portion. Also, that is noted in in middle, and so we would remove that portion about the Math Science Innovation Center. Also, in the middle school section, previously it just stated that we would always group gifted students together. And the committee would like to change that to when possible, that it would be heterogeneous grouping in classrooms. We do make, and counselors make every effort to do that at the middle school level. It just gets a little more complicated. I will say, I think our focus for this year and next year is really going to be English as much as possible to group the gifted students together. And, you know, the number of students in that group also changes year to year. So sometimes it's not possible just for the sheer number of students. The last piece that they would like to change is also under the middle school section, is to add Maggie Walker and Code RVA as options for 8th graders, which we currently have that. It just needs to be added to the plan because previously only Appomattox Regional Governor School was listed there. And those are all of the changes that the committee is requesting, and those changes do need your approval. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from Dr. Clay?
Amanda, I would just mention, do we need to remove every place where it says Math Science Intervention Center? Innovation
I would
Center?
think so, yes.
So it's on page 13.
Okay.
Also on page 20.
I will write that down. Thank you.
This might just be me not understanding the word.
Sure.
But when you had talked about the gifted students, for the cluster, the idea is for them all to be together, all of the gifted students.
Sure.
In the classroom. So would it be heterogeneous or would it be homogeneous for that word? Because I'm just thinking if it's
That
all
would
going to
be
be the same, it would be
yeah.
homogeneous.
Homogeneous.
Homogeneous if you're, yes. If you put all the gifted kids together.
Classroom, yes, you're correct. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for.
Okay, any other questions?
Any other questions? If there are any more questions for Dr. Clay, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the changes to the local gifted education plan.
Second.
It has moved and seconded, we accept the report, local gifted education plan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, thank you, Dr. Clay.
Thank you so much.
Special education annual plan. Dr. Joyner?
This is Dr. Joyner's last official time in front of us this evening. So we will savor every moment.
We make it real tough for
We
you.
are very
Don't do that.
Well, good afternoon, all. I stand before you all this afternoon to present our 24-25 Special Education Annual Plan. And let me get my clicker. All right. And so our Special Education Annual Plan serves as our formal agreement between the local school board and the Virginia Department of Education for implementing federal and state laws governing special education services. So with the annual plan, it does require certifications from each local school board agency that we do have policies and procedures in place for the provision of special education and related services for all of our students. And I do certify that we do have policies and procedures. They are current and they are in compliance with the requirements of IDEA and of all federal requirements. It does require superintendent's signature as well as approval by the local school board. If there is a regional jail within the local school board or local agency, we do have to have an agreement with them. We currently do not have a regional jail. Our students are served in Brunswick County, so we don't have an agreement with our local or regional jail. Also, it does require an implementation narrative, and that narrative for us says that our plan was fully implemented, meaning that we had and maintained an active child find process, which is our process that we use to identify and locate students with disabilities. Also, that it ensures that we had an IEP, which is an individualized education program for all students identified under IDEA and requiring special education services. It does include a component for maintenance of effort. Maintenance of effort requires that we spend at least the same amount of funds on special education students as we did during the previous school year, to which we work very closely with finance with that. For our annual plan, we are required to set aside funds called proportionate set aside. Proportionate set aside are funds that are set aside for our private school children as well as our homeschool children. For this upcoming school year, we are required to set aside that amount there of $46,000. Currently, we are using those funds to provide related services. Services that are related for our children are speech and language services, occupational services, occupational therapy services. We would also provide physical therapy services for our children that are homeschooled, as well as in the private school that are living in Dinwiddie County. Okay. This amount, it is a significant amount, so I will share that we do use timesheets for our speech and language pathologists that are providing those services, and these funds, after 2 years, can come back to the division because I don't anticipate that we will spend that amount of money. Every year, we are required to do what's called a timely and meaningful consultation with our parentally placed and our homeschool families, and that talks about what are the needs, like what are you all seeing that are needs for our students with disabilities that have been identified. And so right now, based on our last December 1, there are 23 identified students that are homeschooled or in the private school setting that have been identified as receiving special education services. Our 611 grant, and these are the funds that we receive for special education services. 611 is for our children aged kindergarten through 22 inclusive, and so last year we received that amount there. As Ms. Woolfolk shared earlier, we use the same identified amounts from the previous school year because the allocations have not been made public yet. They will towards the end of the year, and typically they're always a little bit higher than what we received previously. Our December 1 count this year was 612, so it was a little bit decreased from previous years. However, I do anticipate that that number should remain close. We are, for our 611, 619 funds received for special education, all of our funds are used towards salaries and benefits for our staff members that serve our students. And so that will not change for the upcoming school year. We are anticipating that we will be able to include 16 full-time positions with those funds, and that will include 8 exceptional education teachers as well as 8 paraprofessionals. Each year, we always have to go back and look at that number because as we get raises, that number will change. For our 619 funds, these funds are used for our children aged 2 through 5, and it is used to provide salaries and benefits for the students that are being supported there, it does include one full-time exceptional education paraprofessional. And so we anticipate receiving that same, about $31,000 for 619 for the upcoming school year. The special education annual plan is due to the Virginia Department of Education on or before May 10th. Prior to submitting it to the VDOE, it does have to be presented here, as well as it had to be presented to our SEAC, which is our Special Education Advisory Committee, and it was presented to them in March. And I would like to recognize Ms. White and Dr. Pelt, who are here from our SEAC, who are always out in supporting our students and families here in the county. So are there any questions in regards to our special education annual plan?
I have one question.
Sure.
I'm not sure I'm understanding. Well, you said the spending must be the same amount, the dollar figure must be the same amount, or the percentage spent must be the same amount?
So it is, the dollar figure must be the same or more, okay? And there are 4 tests that we have to meet at least one of for that. There are some exemptions, but we certainly don't want to fall below and not meet those tests. And I look to Christy for that. We certainly don't want to do that. Okay. Any other questions?
I have one quick one. So I know during our last school board meeting, which was technically a work session, I had asked the question of the process that we have when it comes to manifestation reports. I know that you said that this is, kind of our agreement between us and then the state on federal and state regulations. Would the annual plan include things like procedural policies and like best practice and all? Would it include, I guess, like, okay, what does it look like when we do a manifestation report? What are the policies we follow? Just because I want to get more information about that.
Sure, absolutely it does. So a part of submitting the annual plan, it does ensure that you are in compliance with all federal and state policies. Manifestation determination is one that we have to remain in compliance with. And so I did provide some documentation, but certainly Alicia Lee or Alicia Hagens can certainly provide some additional information for you about manifestation determination, or I'm more than willing to provide some additional information. But when I shared that it is fully, we're fully in compliance, it does include that we're in compliance with manifestation determinations, the policies as well. Okay.
She had shared with the training information that we received from the attorney's office. It was very thorough. So if there's something you need besides that, yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, I'm certain that we're, in compliance. It was just a question of, okay, what is that process?
Yeah, it really
look like,
spells it
especially
out.
since it relates to, a lot of the discipline cases.
That's right.
Yes, and that manifestation determination policy is in place to ensure that our students, that we are taking into consideration our students' disability when there are behavioral infractions that occur with our students. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right. And it does require approval by the school board. I'm coming back though. So Martina Bullock Seaborn is going to actually upload the plan to VDOE, but I'm going to be here with her when she does that.
What do you think, Dr. Clay? Should we approve it? Should we try to keep her?
After hearing this report from Dr. Joyner, I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the special education plan.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the special education annual plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
And blessings. Sudden cardiac arrest, Mr. Walters.
Hello again. This is the Code of Virginia requires that each school system put in a sudden cardiac arrest plan for students to give information and also to give coaches and others guidance on how to handle if this situation does happen. This will be the second reading, and I'm hoping for approval for this policy today. Just to give you a little background, I know we've talked about it a little bit, but this is a informational sheet that we give out at the beginning of each sports season, and this sheet has information that is broken into 3 categories: the requirements, which would be the parent, the student, and the coach acknowledging that they understand what sudden cardiac arrest is and how we're going to deal with it should it come up. Educational, it explains what sudden cardiac arrest is. It gives the warning signs. It gives the emergency response that is expected, and the removal and return to play protocol. And if you've ever been involved in high school athletics, that's very important because medical intervention is needed often for return to play, which is important because they're the experts. The third is the safety. Again, we give the warning signs, but we also talk about medical clearance and how do you achieve that, and mitigation and hoping to minimize the impact that it could have on your life. Now, unfortunately, sudden cardiac arrest is just that. It's sudden and it's unexpected oftentimes. But we do the best that we can to make sure that we have a policy that gives parents information so they can look for warning signs. Oftentimes, those warning signs don't happen during competition. They happen afterwards or before, whether they're resting heartbeat or something like that. So I am here to ask for your approval for this policy. A couple of things you have in front of you that's showing up there right now would be the informational sheet that actually goes home for the parent signature. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of that, you'll see that it's got all of the risk and information, but at the very bottom it has a place for the parent and the athlete, the student athlete, and the coach to sign so that each athlete will have one of these on file. We also, although it wasn't required, we decided, I talked with Coach Tortorese, and we decided that we wanted to have our head coaches for each sport certified. So they're going to take the National Federation of High School Sports Learn course. It's a 1-hour course that gives you definite information, but it also it updates that information yearly so that we can pass that on to our assistant coaches and our volunteer coaches. Each assistant and volunteer coach will be required to get this information through the preseason or the preschool informational sessions with Coach Tortorese. I also added, just for the dietary needs for teens, the suggested servings, because as you pointed out, Mr. Brown, I know that a lot of people don't know how to eat and how to fuel your body correctly if you're a high-performing athlete. I know I didn't when I was that age, and so hopefully we can help people stay healthy. So unless there's any questions, I know we've talked about this, but I'd be certain that if there's any other questions that did come up. Yes, sir.
We did talk about this previously, Mr. Walters, and I had some thoughts after
Okay.
our previous conversation. And my questions revolve around legalese, liability, that sort of thing.
Sure.
So for example, on a football field, as a football official, I never will tell a coach, I think he's got a concussion, right? Because once I become a doctor and diagnose,
That's right.
then, so the question I have related to this is, we're asking our coaches to sign something saying that they are aware of these symptoms and are trained or whatever in how to recognize it. What liability are the coaches taking, and what liability are we as a school system taking now if we miss something?
Yeah.
So for example, if we do have a case where a student athlete experiences sudden cardiac arrest, and I've signed this paper saying I'm trained to recognize these symptoms, is there any liability there that we're taking on?
No, they're not signing, they're signing an acknowledgement that they understand what the symptoms are, not that they're trained. We are training our coaches in a 1-hour course issue, but it's a very rudimentary course, and it basically goes over the signs and symptoms of sudden cardiac arrest. Unfortunately, with sudden cardiac arrest, the symptoms are obviously not overt. You usually don't see them, you don't understand them, it just happens. What we're trying to do is have not just our coaches, but our parents and our student athletes themselves, because that's going to be the person who's going to be the most in tune with this. Just acknowledge that they understand that being short of breath, being dizzy, having trouble catching your breath, being lightheaded, those are not just normal hey, I'm working out really hard symptoms, those are possible symptoms of sudden cardiac arrest. And if either of those three entities recognize them, they need to be taken serious and report
So
them.
I guess the question I'm asking then is more, what advantage is there to us requiring a signature beyond just requiring the training? What does the signature do for us, and what, is there any risk in adding a signature to this process?
Yeah, well, the political answer is because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
The technical answer is because the Virginia Assembly requires that we do have them acknowledge and give consideration to the possibility of sudden cardiac arrest. So the best way that I know how to do that, just like we do with our VHSL physical form, is to have the parent sign saying, yep, I read this stuff.
Okay.
I can tell you that my son or daughter does not exhibit any of these symptoms normally. But also, the biggest thing for me is to make sure that they understand that if they do, we are going to remove them from play.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're the star quarterback, they're going to be removed from play until they're cleared by a medical doctor. Not because we don't want to get sued, because it's the right thing to do and to make sure the student is safe. And that goes for the kid who, is on the golf team and is the number 10 golfer, all the way up to the star player on the football team. Everybody has the same, because it's important that we keep these kids safe, because oftentimes, I was an athlete when I was in high school and I was invincible. And I wish that I would have known the things that I know now, because kids are not honest a lot of times. So we need as many people involved in this as possible. So there's not
The state is requiring the signature, or?
It is. The Code of Virginia, subsection 22.1 through 271.8 requires this. It doesn't require the signature, excuse me, it requires the acknowledgement, and the only way that I can verify that it's been acknowledged. Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
And I will read back through it, because you make a good point. I certainly don't want to set our coaches or anyone up to sign something saying, I'm an expert and
Right.
I will make sure this doesn't happen. I simply want them to say, I acknowledge that these are symptoms, and that if I do witness these symptoms, I will make sure that I report them.
Okay.
And then we leave it up to medical professionals, right? Those are the people, the athletic trainers, the doctors, they're the ones that make these medical determinations.
No, forgive me if I'm forgetting. Is this one of the forms that we were saying the coaches would just keep
Yes, sir.
on their person?
Yes,
So
sir.
it wouldn't be submitted to anybody else anyway?
No, it will be actually on the, our school coaches' education, just saying that, because it's required, just saying that the coaches have acknowledged this.
Okay.
Same with the VHSL physical. Each athlete has a little checkbox that they have all their proper.
So that federation training, is that not something they're already doing, or?
It is something that we've decided to mandate. Some coaches have done it, but we're gonna mandate head coaches do it, because it's endorsed by the National Federation, which governs VHSL sports.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry. You're right. It is important that we do distinguish between acknowledgement and proclaiming to know everything about it. Yeah, and I will make sure that before we send this out, is very clear.
I'm prepared to make the motion if you guys want.
Well, they're not necessarily acknowledging that they know this, they're acknowledging that they have received the information, correct?
And that they will report these symptoms, yes. If my son comes home and says, I'm dizzy after I work out, as a parent, I would report that. But we need coaches too. They tell the coach, I'm dizzy. That coach needs to report that. And the kid needs to report that.
To just kind of explain why I'm asking these questions, our Central Virginia Football Officials Association had a lawyer come in and talk to us or whatever at some point and explain to us, we don't want to get in the business of diagnosing. And so there was a scenario hypothetical that was created where we say, I don't like what I see here. Coach, take a look at him, is what I say. Send him off the field.
Absolutely.
If the coach sends him back in, I don't say a word, because then I become liable, even if, and I totally agree with you, even if the right thing in my mind is he shouldn't be out of here, if I send him out a second time, I'm saying this kid has something wrong with him.
I agree.
And so we put that on the coach. And so there's this fear, I guess, that everybody involved in youth and students, athletes, there's this fear that somebody's going to be held responsible. I'm all for doing the right thing. Unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes that's not as simple as it should be.
I agree. And please, if it ever happens at one of our games and the coach sends them back without medical
I've never
attention
had it
from the
happen.
trainer,
I've never personally had
please
it.
let me know, because the first thing that one of our coaches is trained to do when a kid is sent out by an official, hey, something's not right, is to go see the trainer.
I've never had it happen.
Okay.
But the only reason I bring that up is because that experience, that lawyer saying, it scared me.
Sure.
I think I don't want to be responsible for something that's.
Well, an official, you're at a different capacity. You see that kid for a snapshot where these coaches and parents and, they're seeing them day in and day out during practice, during games, during everything in school. So I think it's unfair to ask you to do anything more than say something's not right. But parents, I think, and coaches, they have that responsibility. If this kid is not acting normal,
Right.
we need to make sure we protect
I'm
them.
assuming this is very similar to what we're already doing with concussions
It
anyway.
is.
We're already
It is.
doing this with
It
concussions.
is the concussion protocol, and it's the same thing. Once you get deemed a concussion, I didn't forget, Mr. Brown. Once you get deemed you have a concussion, the only way to get back on the field is through clearance from a medical professional.
Okay.
And in football, they proverbially take the helmet.
Right.
In every other sport, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
No, no worries. I want to make sure everyone's questions are asked. So one, I want to say thank you for adding the dietary
Yeah,
coach to that.
no problem.
Like I said, a lot of this can be preventative, and so just having an athlete for a brother and seeing the things he's
Sure.
eating, I was like, okay, I want to make sure that that was added. One of the other things that I had mentioned when we had the work session and we had discussed this initially is I was wanting to make sure that there was a page that had this translated for our Spanish-speaking students. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that in this edition, because I think after we had this work session meeting to discuss this, last month there was a student out in Tennessee, 17 years old, who had died, basketball player. And so it's a very relevant conversation.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make sure that we don't have that case happen, and it's because maybe a Spanish-speaking student or just a student that doesn't speak English, takes it home, signs it themselves instead of having their parents sign it, and then.
This will be linked on our website, and from what I understand, everything is translated in Spanish, but it doesn't do us any harm to get it translated and get, if we have a Spanish-speaking player, which I can think of 3 sports that do, it doesn't do any harm to give it to them in English and Spanish, and then they can make the decision. Some people want it in English because they're trying to assimilate. Some people want it in Spanish, and that's fine too. We can make that available.
You can have them back and front, now we're gonna give it out.
Absolutely.
Documents like that.
Absolutely.
Is this going to be given to them on paper, or because you
It'll be-
mentioned digital?
Well, it's linked on our website because we have our requirements for our web, linked for parents to see. But it is given in paper, and it is signed in paper, returned back to the coach.
Okay.
So it's the same as the physical form.
Paper where it's both English and Spanish. Because like I said, I personally know students that are here at Dinwiddie.
Yeah,
High School,
absolutely.
Spanish is their first language. It's the native language back home, and I want
Yep.
to make sure that we're making sure everyone's taking preventative.
I agree.
proactive.
And we have a lot of kids who have assimilated and speak perfect English, but at home, Spanish is the only language spoken. We want parents to be able to read this and understand it also. I agree. I'll make sure that happens.
I do appreciate all the work you did. It's a good thing.
Sure.
I do believe this is a good thing. I think sometimes things are more complicated than they should be.
They are. People, you can almost find anything you want. I always say, right is right, regardless of whether somebody, finds something wrong with it. If it's right, it's right, so. Yeah. And this will be, Bonnie will work her magic on putting it into the policy manual and all that, and so that's what that is.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Walters? Okay, I will entertain a motion now.
Oh, yes, I approve that, I move that we approve the sudden cardiac arrest, SCA prevention, and student athletes policy.
I'll second that.
It's moved and second that we will approve the sudden cardiac arrest, SCA prevention and student activities, student athlete board policy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, thank you, Mr. Walters.
Thank you. I think I'm next also, unless there's something else. Oh, have to do business, okay.
Are there, Ms. Golson, is there any new business?
There's no new business.
No new business?
Just giving you a few extra steps today.
Okay, school security officer handbook establishment.
We also have been over this, we've discussed it, but I wanted to bring it before you publicly. Our school security officer program has grown threefold. We started off with one, we added another, and now we've added a third. We have one at Dinwiddie High School who is freshly certified. They got certified over spring break and will soon to be armed, school security officer at the high school. At the middle school, newly certified, got certified over spring break, is not going to be armed, will be an unarmed security officer. And then we have a certified armed school security officer at Encompass. And just for a little relevance there. In order to be armed, basically, the state, it's a very wordy, but you have to basically be a retired law enforcement officer. And our armed officers do qualify yearly, just like with the sheriff's department, same type of thing. So what I did was I put together a handbook that I thought was important because first, I think if you're going to ask somebody to do a job that takes a lot of intuition, it also takes a lot of interpretation of situations and de-escalation tactics and things that you just can't train every single situation. You need to give them some guidelines for which you expect them to do that job. So I wanted to put that together. I wanted to put it together and give them expectations on who to report to. Sometimes when you get in a non-instructional position in a school, it becomes very cloudy on who actually is your direct supervisor. And in each of these schools, it will be the principal of the school, which I think is important. They are a staff member. Therefore, they're not bound by the same things that the police are bound by. We can use preponderance of evidence and just say, we think there may be a danger here, so we can act on that as a school security officer. But the biggest thing that I think is the most important for school security officers is they have to be the type of person who can de-escalate a situation, who can take a situation and talk to a child and let them know they're making a mistake and maybe pull them aside. And all three of ours, hands down, have that capability, and that's what I'm most proud of. Unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes guns come into our school, and so I think it's important that we're able to protect our children. But I also thought it was important to give them, and if you see, you probably have already looked at it, but on page 8, I have a use of force continuum. I'm a firm believer that if you give somebody a weapon, you need to give them a use of force continuum. You need to make sure that they understand when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate to use that weapon. And I do want to bring to your attention, and I'll wait for Bonnie to get it up there. Next page. Presence is the most common use of force continuum. We used to talk about it all the time in the hallway. If you're in the hallway, oftentimes that fight won't happen, the argument won't happen, because you're present. You're an adult presence, and you can teach people how to react to situations that make them angry. And then if you scroll down to number 5 there, if you would, please, Bonnie. Lethal force is extremely uncommon, extremely, extremely uncommon, and I'm going to make sure that I talk about that, and that's why it's important that they're all former law enforcement, because they know how uncommon it is to draw your service weapon during duty. Most police officers don't do it, so certainly we don't expect it to happen in schools, but we certainly want to be prepared if that's necessary, and I want to make sure that we can do everything we can to protect our students. So I wanted to bring your attention to that because I think it is important that everybody understands. And you see there's 3 steps in between that, whether it be verbal commands, whether it be empty hand control, which is basically holding someone back from doing something they shouldn't do, removal of the situation. There's a lot of things that happen. 9 times out of 10, though, you don't get past presence. Presence is the most important thing in these kids' lives, usually when you're in the hallway and there's something going to happen, or in a classroom. It's just being there. So I know you've looked over this handbook. I know there were some grammatical inconsistencies that we've taken care of, and I'm glad that we were able to do that. We corrected some grammar. My professional grammar corrector, Ms. Burnett, looked it over for me, so I'm very confident that it's in good shape. But I did want to bring this to you informational. I don't believe it needs approval, but I just wanted to make sure you're informed and answer any questions you may have had since last time we spoke.
I think I read through it, and I think it's a good tool for them to have.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's always good when we hope there are no emergencies, but if there are, they do know where to go next.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That is important.
And this is good for them to have on hand. Are there any questions for Mr. Walters?
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
We're down to, are there any citizen comment?
No.
Okay, no citizens comments. Board member comments. Jason, you?
We'll start with you first.
Great. No, I don't think I had any comments. The only thing that I did do for the HES, I did look up to try to figure out where the name came from. So HES was founded by Buddy Helton with an H, and then Charlie Spencer with an S. I don't know who the E is, but I'm thinking that's probably what they did, was put their last names together to get the acronym. I know a few businesses that do that, so, yeah. But outside of that, no other
Ministry was just a connector.
Yeah, yeah. We're just
We'll
like,
be
hey,
waiting for
find
that
a
answer.
random
I did the same thing.
So you want to valve for two consonants.
Okay.
Dwayne, any
We have to wait till 5:30 anyway, don't we? Okay. Well, I overheard Jason, Mr. Brown say something earlier. Did you say today is 100 days? Tomorrow would be, tomorrow would be 100 days of this school board term. So we're four months into this. This is our 4th month meeting. And I'm still seeing people at these meetings that are part of the system that I've not met before, which blows my mind. When I was pretty young, a lot of you know my mother worked in the school system here in Dinwiddie County for years. And for 1, maybe 2 years of the time that she worked for the school system, she worked in this building downstairs. And so I got off the bus here sometimes as a kid and played on the rocks out back. Randall Marston, his mom, Debbie, was the commissioner of the revenue at the time. He would get off the bus here. I don't know why Kevin was here, but Kevin Massagill was here sometimes as well. And we would goof off in that break room downstairs and stuff. And but I remember thinking, I believe Dr. Vaughn was the superintendent at the time. But the school system was all downstairs. And I remember thinking this is the central office, it's larger than life or whatever. But seeing it now and how much it's grown, the comment was made earlier about growth. The purpose is growth. And so it's really cool to see that the school system is growing. And not just in number, but in efficiency and effectiveness, that sort of thing. And so I'm enjoying seeing the growth and seeing what's happening here. So I look forward to meeting more people. I guess there are more coming. So
thank you, Dr. Pearson.
I'd just like to thank everyone, the staff, the support personnel that worked so hard on putting these plans together, because I know that every time you turn around, you're being appointed to work on another committee or there's another document that you need to develop, and they're not always easy to get everyone to agree to come up with how you want your plan to read, how you want it to work. So I thank you for all the effort you have put into these plans.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I'll ask the chair, Ms. Pittman, do you have any comments? I'm happy to be. Monty?
I just wanted to start out by saying again that I enjoy the recognitions. I always enjoy the recognitions, but a particular part that I enjoyed today and really admired today was I enjoyed how, you know, as board members that you really challenged these policies. You know, you asked questions, you made sure that be the best thing for students, you know, all grade levels and no matter what their background is. And I really just admire that because it shows how much you all care. And, you know, being a student myself, it's just really nice to be able to sit here every time I witness a meeting and see how much you all care. So I just wanted to say that it's something that's really nice to see. I really admire you all.
Oh, how sweet.
Before Dr. Weston comes, the next generation is going to be just fine. Dr. Weston?
I was just going to say that I sometimes have to remind myself that Amani is a high school student because she doesn't carry herself like one. You're just like an old soul. I know that she works as part of the student advisory with Mr. Garnes, and they're doing some amazing things over there at the high school, and I just appreciate her so much. I just want to say, I want to talk about her leadership. I believe that smart people can work anywhere. I tell people that all the time. And I would just say, I'd be amiss if I didn't say that the Virginia Department of Education is getting a really great leader in Dr. Joyner, and that she will be missed greatly. And you have certainly done amazing things for our young people and for our leaders and for me. And, you know, we're all better because we know you and have had the opportunity to work alongside you. And, you know, the door's always open when you get there and you find the grass is really not as green. That's my hope anyway. But we just are going to miss you greatly, and just your spirit, your compassion for young people, your passion for grown people, just the manner in which you approach your work, and just you're an amazing leader. And I just want to say thank you so very much for the time you've spent with us. We just look forward to the great things you're going to do on a state level. Our loss is certainly their gain. That's all. Yes, we're going to adjourn now.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to reconvene.
Yeah, we're going to adjourn the
And then we'll
Adjourn the regular meeting.
I move that we adjourn the regular board meeting.
Second.
Okay, and then we will wait.
Reconvene at 5:30.
We will reconvene at 5:30, so you have about
They don't need to stay.
6 minutes. You don't need to stay.
Sometimes it's either a PD or they